Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
After the end of World War II, a conflict known as the Cold War developed among some of the major world powers that had been part of the war. Two world powers emerged, known as the Western and Eastern blocs. The Western Bloc consisted of countries allied with NATO and the United States, which included Western European countries such as the United Kingdom and France. The Eastern Bloc included communist states in Eastern Europe, most notably the Soviet Union. During this time, control of Germany was split between France, England, the United States, and the Soviet Union, which prevented it from regaining power and threatening European peace. The areas under France, England, and the United States were labeled West Germany, while the Soviet sector was called East Germany. During nearly the entire span of the Cold War, West Germany remained under the Federal Republic of Germany, a democratic government, while East Germany was under a government called the German Democratic Republic. Germany's capital, Berlin, was within East German territory, and Bonn became the capital of West Germany. Due to better living conditions and more stable government in West Germany, many East Germans began to flood into West Berlin to escape from the Soviets' communist government. In 1958, Nikita Khrushchev, the leader of the Soviet Union, gave a speech telling the United States and other Western powers occupying Berlin to pull out of the city. From the years 1958 to 1961, a period known as the Berlin Crisis, United States President Dwight Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy refused to comply with demands, and tension rose between East and West Berlin. The period ended when a barbed wire fence went up in Berlin, preventing travel between the city's east and west sides. The Berlin Wall was ordered to be built in 1961 by Walter Ulbricht to prevent East Germans from crossing the border to West Germany. It was a physical and social barrier that symbolized the division between democratic West Berlin and Soviet-controlled East Germany. The wall, which was originally built out of barbed wire and cinder blocks, was not very effective, and it was replaced by a 96-mile barrier that separated East and West Berlin. The nearly 12-foot wall was constantly attended by guards who would fire upon anybody trying to cross the wall, and it also included dog runs, watchtowers, and traps, which showed the extent of what the Soviet Union would do to control its people. For 28 years, Germans went to great lengths to cross the border by using underground tunnels, crossing directly over the wall, or forcing their way through it, which was usually fatal for those who tried. So many people died trying to cross the wall that the border between East and West Berlin became known as a death strip. The Soviet government, which went to great lengths to suppress its people, developed the largest secret police network in the world, called the KGB. People in East Germany who helped those escape to West Germany were always at risk of being found. Although the wall was very secure, 3 checkpoints were built between East and West Berlin for tourists and members of the Allied forces to pass between East and West Berlin. The most famous of these was Checkpoint Charlie. This checkpoint gained notoriety due to the heavy presence of Soviet and Allied tanks aimed at each other on either side of the wall during the Cold War. United States Presidents John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan were extremely influential during the Cold War. Kennedy resumed the testing of nuclear weapons due to the fear of Soviets conducting underground testing of their own. In Ronald Reagan's address at the Brandenburg Gate, often referred to as his Tear Down the Wall speech, Reagan addressed the current leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, telling him to tear down the Berlin Wall, which had separated a once unified nation for many years.
If you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
During a press conference in 1989, Günter Schabowski, the spokesman of the East German Communist Party, was to announce new travel policies for the Berlin Wall. Because Schabowski had just recently received the new regulations, he did not fully understand them. When a reporter asked when East Germany could take advantage of these new policies, he replied, "From now." That evening, news reporters broadcasted incorrect information that East German citizens could cross into West Germany by any border crossing, and West German television programs reported that the Berlin Wall was opening. Within minutes of this false announcement, thousands of East and West Germans flooded to the wall and demanded to cross. Since this event had happened so quickly, the East German government had little time to react. With a surging mob of people at the border and very few guards, the border guard in charge that night made the life-changing decision to open the gates because they feared that they would not be able to stop the crowds. This began the steps toward the reunification of Germany under one government. The goal which the United States had so eagerly fought for was finally being completed. Over the next days and months, Germans began to tear down the wall, most keeping parts of it for souvenirs. In October of 1990, Germany was once again unified into one democratic government. In the following year, on December 25, 1991, Mikhail Gorbachev stepped down from his position as the president of the Soviet Union. The next day, the Soviet Union dissolved. Even while the Allies fought for the fall of the Berlin Wall, its fate seemed to come from within. If Günter Schabowski had properly read the report before the press conference, the wall might have remained standing for even longer than it already had. Today, the events of the Berlin Wall serve as a reminder of the risks of a divided country and how an ideology can tear apart families, cities, and even an entire nation. The Berlin Wall, which stood for almost 30 years, had endless effects on both small and large scales. In local communities, families, spouses, and neighbors were separated from each other for longer than ever anticipated. The Berlin Wall conflict had also divided what was once known as the Allied powers. The friendship between the Soviets and the Allied powers had turned to the Cold War. This had become a fight for the rights of the German people, but in addition, it was a fight between the powers of communism and capitalism. The wall was more than just a physical barrier. It represented an ideological struggle between East and West Germany and between communism and democracy. The Soviet Union, which was trying to prove that a communist government was the best solution for Germany and to live peacefully with other nations, was ironic in itself due to the amount of people attempting to escape its rule. Not only did the outcome of the Berlin Wall conflict ultimately end communism in Germany, it also reduced tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. An important responsibility displayed by the United States was working to destroy the presence of suppressive communism and return the government that had so well ruled Germany before World War II. In doing so, the United States restored the rights of countless German citizens that had been taken away from them, including rights to travel in their own country and freedom from an oppressive police force and harsh policies.